So a lot of white people are crying and deciding to leave the current ruling party in the States, which is the Trump administration. And they have these little hearts called MAGA, which is Make America Great Again. And they wore them so proudly. They were so happy to be affiliated with them. But once Trump got into power and he started doing certain moves, a few people are not happy that they actually voted him. By a few people, I mean some white people are not happy that they did vote for him. We're seeing examples like a certain farmer who voted for Trump. He was so happy to vote for Trump. And then when ICE was in his area, all of a sudden his workers started disappearing because they didn't want to be deported, so they self-deported. And he's saying how he can't close down his farm because they're living animals, right? And no American is willing to take on a job like the ones that the immigrants were taking on. Mind you, they weren't even having breaks. It was a 24/7 job for them, So someone like him is now realizing that he actually needs the immigrants to do the work that certain Americans won't be able to do for him. But when he voted for Trump, do you think he didn't know what Trump was going to do? Do you think he didn't know what Trump promised them, that he was going to get rid of all immigrants? But now that it's happening in his backyard, he has the self-conscious to now think, I need to change my ways. And we have so many people who are now realizing that, hey, this is not what I voted for. They voted for him thinking he would get rid of the black people, but they've realized that their vote is also affecting them, and it's not just affecting the black people. Let's watch these clips.
This is Dustin Maaya or Maaya. He owns a dairy farming business out in Vermont. The business name is Maaya and Sons. He has 11 migrant workers that helps him tend to the cows in 2 locations that's attached to Maaya and Sons farms. Dustin voted for Donald Trump, and I'm sure you've already guessed why he voted for Donald Trump. We need to get the gangbangers out of this country. The rapists and the murderers, we need to get them out of this country. Also because Donald Trump and his economy, his policies for the economy. You can read all about Dustin and what's going on in the state of Vermont with ICE and the migrant workers. You can read about it here. Yeah, Dustin is now upset with Donald Trump because ICE is in Vermont arresting migrant workers and deporting them. And so a lot of his workers that was working on his farm in those 2 locations, they've disappeared. They're afraid of getting picked up by ICE and being deported to a country that they are not from. And so now Dustin is not happy because he and Sons have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to milk and tend to the cows. Dustin says, quote, these guys work 6 12-hour days. They don't care about having Christmas off and this and that off. It's a 24/7 job. We don't get the ability to shut down the place for a week. We're dealing with living, breathing creatures, end quote. And so in the article, the reporter asked him if he's worried about his business. This is what Dustin had to say. Quote, I'm very worried about it. It's not sustainable to not have migrant farm workers. Farming would be very bleak and the cost would skyrocket in the grocery store because you can't pay an American to do this job anymore. Americans just don't want to do this job without the foreign labor. It's just not sustainable. The article also says that Maaya and Sons in Sheldon, Vermont employs 11 migrant farm workers to milk about 1,400 cows on 2 farms. The work is dirty, dangerous, and unrelenting. He recognizes the value in the undocumented migrant worker, but he went into the voting booth to vote to have undocumented immigrants removed from the country. I don't care about Dustin and his Maaya and Sons dairy farming business. Hell, he didn't even care about his business. He went into the voting booth and voted against the successful business that he's had for years. And this has been the latest edition of Found and Find Out.
I voted for him for lower grocery prices. He promised me cheaper prices on groceries. And that has not happened. Not only has that not happened, I am getting my food stamps taken. I am getting my cash assistance taken. I am getting my Section 8 taken. I am getting all my welfare governments taken. I did not ask for this. I would not have voted for him if I knew this was going to happen.
Do you know what drives me insane about these people that say that if I would have known, I wouldn't have voted for him, or I did not vote for that? Yes, you did. The first thing that bothers me is yes, you did. You see, you voted for those things. You just thought it would happen to someone else. You were perfectly fine with other people losing programs, losing things that would benefit them. You just didn't think it would touch you. You thought you were safe from losing these programs. And the other part is they say they didn't know. Bull crap. Bull crap. The left, independents, lots of different economic experts, doctors, scientists have been screaming about all the horrible things that Donald Trump would do. We told you about Project 2025. We told you how many times his name was listed in Project 2025. And we told you how many of his own staffers were in there as well or helped write it. But you guys didn't believe us. You guys said fake news. We tried to warn you. You didn't either want to listen, or your bigotry and your racism, your homophobia and your sexism didn't allow you to see what was coming. So the bed that you made, you now have to lie on. The sad thing is that so many of us are in the same bed with you, but we didn't vote that way. We knew that these things were going to happen. We knew that this was going to cause havoc for everybody. And look, I'm sorry for you. I feel horrible that you're going to lose all these benefits, but you did vote for this. So if you want something to change, I suggest you call your congressperson and tell them to put a leash on Donald Trump and stop him in Congress. I suggest instead of just coming on this app and whining and complaining about what you yourself created, you call your representative and do something about it. Otherwise, we here on the left and independent, we don't care. We warned you. All my love.
So here we are, people, with South Carolina Bill 3537, introduced in the majority-held Republican House, and it's now in committee getting ready for a full House vote. It has so many horrific aspects that I almost don't know where to begin. The Handmaid's Tale, you know, the old series, is back again. Season 6 is to begin in April. But I urge you to watch it from the beginning if you want to know what the Republican plan for women is going to be. It is scary as hell. The goal is, once again, to make women into second-class citizens who feel powerless and afraid for their lives. Let me tell you about Bill 3537, and I urge you to look it up because otherwise you may not believe me or think I'm exaggerating. It's called the Prenatal Protection Act and defines an unborn fetus as a person at any stage of development. It then seeks to protect this fetus, whom they call a person, from any assault. So what is the assault? The plan is that if a woman has a miscarriage, an investigation will follow to see if this tragedy was in any way her fault. Did she go to work? Did she ride a bicycle? Did she pick up a heavy package or go on an airplane contrary to somebody's advice? Anybody can be called to testify against her. Probably a miscarriage will have to be immediately reported to the government or the police, or else a doctor or hospital might be implicated as well. This would prevent women from reaching out to their doctors for help if they're having a miscarriage, which could affect their very lives. The woman can then be charged with murder and possibly sentenced to life imprisonment if it is thought to be her fault in any way. This is so unthinkable that the word unacceptable is way not strong enough. This bill was introduced in the House in South Carolina in December, of course after the election, and Republican senators keep wanting to add their names as sponsors to this bill. Can you believe? South Carolina, if you can hear me at all, please use 5calls.org that I talked about yesterday to...
All right, guys, you've watched those clips. They're quite insightful. This old lady at the end, I was just watching like, what is happening in today's generation? I will make a video on that. I'm going to do all the research for you guys and then I'll come back and make a video for that. But guys, that is it for me. What do you think about this video? Let me know in the comment section. Please make sure you go ahead and like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, support the channel by purchasing the merch. Check out my website at Janita Maaya, and I'll see you next time. Okay, bye.